Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, Out of Voice Radio. So today, we are taking a look at the Gyarados deck with which Alex Dow won the Birmingham Regional Championships last weekend, and he actually went undefeated. He had a couple of draws, but he went undefeated. It's a brilliant deck list, and you know the deal on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. I am only bringing you deck lists which are proven to be good. So this deck is all about Gyarados, ladies and gentlemen. And that Gyarados is a brilliant card. The main attack here is dependent on the Magikarp that you have in your discard pile. Full Retaliation does 30 damage as a base, plus 30 more for each damage counter on each benched Magikarp. So 2 benched Magikarp with 2 damage counters each means 4 damage counters plus the 30 with full retaliation means you're doing 150 damage. This was a good deck a while ago, but you were really reliant on having all of your Magikarp on the field. That's no longer the case because of the item card Choice Band. When I say item, I mean tool. Now, Alex is actually playing 3 copies of Choice Band here, and what's really good is that this combos nicely with Gyarados' Fated Double, which allows you to have 2 tools attached to Gyarados. So in theory here, you could attach 2 Choice Bands and be doing an extra 60. This is one of the things that has made this deck so much better than it used to be. It's quite simply, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about making sure that your Gyarados is doing as much damage as possible. In the past, having 1 Magikarp prize means you were stuck at 150 damage, which wasn't really enough. Now you can actually do 210 damage with a Magikarp prize, because you'll be doing 120 for the 4 damage counters on the 2 Magikarp on the bench, plus the 30 base, plus 60 for the 2 Choice Bands. But Alex is also actually here playing a copy of Professor Kukui, and that means he can actually do 230 with a Magikarp prize. That is huge, and that's why the deck's good nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. Gyarados can hit the numbers far better than he used to be able to. Now, there are a couple of other Pokemon in the list. 1 copy of Shaymin. You don't want to use Shaymin. You don't want to ever play Shaymin. Shaymin wants to stay in your deck because it's an easy 2 prizes, and Gyarados is a deck that relies on swapping 1 prize that they take for 2 prizes that you take. But sometimes your deck is a bit slow and you need to get set up, and that's where Shaymin comes in. 1 copy of Tapu Lele, same theory as Shaymin. You don't want to play it, you don't want to have it on the field, you don't want it KO'd giving up 2 prizes, but sometimes you need to search for that supporter. You need to grab that teammates to go and grab yourselves the last 2 cards you need for the combo. And Gyarados is a deck about combos. Every turn you need the Magikarp on the field with the damage counters and the Gyarados and the double colourless energy. It needs to be done. Sometimes you need a Tapu Lele. 1-1 Octillery. Now, Octillery we do want on the field. And in the Birmingham stream last weekend, I commentated a couple of Alex's games, and I saw him really stretch to make sure he had that Octillery every turn. It got KO'd 1 game, and it became his priority to get this Octillery back. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because it helps him get cards. It helps him get, as I keep referring to it, the combo every single turn. Draw until you've got 5 cards in your hand. You don't want to use a 2-prize Shaymin. In this deck, Octillery is king. And there's one other 1-1 Pokemon line, and it is Machoke. Machoke blocks damage counters and damage from attacks and abilities. You have constantly got Magikarps on your bench with 10 HP remaining, which means if someone uses a promo Tapu Koko to do 20 damage to all of your bench Pokemon, you lose, all of your Pokemon I should say, instantly. Somebody brings out a Decidueye and starts using Feather Arrows. Every Feather Arrow is a KO. You are going to lose. Things like Spinder, things like the promo Celebi would all completely wreck your deck instantly. But a 1-1 Machoke line means that doesn't happen. Now, this is why Alex has to be playing Town Map. 1 copy here because you've got to get your Magikarp out. It's not as important as it used to be, but it's still important. But you've got to get your 1-1 Machoke. You've got to get your 1-1 Octillery. For that reason, you need Town Map, so if something is prized, you can find it straight away. Now, in terms of supporters, we've got 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. This is a deck that involves getting up and having a combo. This is the fastest, most aggressive supporter in the format. You need it pretty much early game. It's got to be done. You're playing 4 of them. 1 copy of N. Sometimes you are going to go down a few prizes. Sometimes you're going to need to slow your opponent down. N does this very nicely. It's also good to just draw you cards in the early game, but you're only playing 1 because mostly you want Professor Sycamore. 2 copies of Teammates. This is a fragile deck, ladies and gentlemen. You've constantly got Magikarp with 10 HP remaining. Your Gyarados will usually have 110 HP. This is a deck where you're expecting to be KO'd every turn, but you don't really care because you're taking 2 prizes, they're taking 1. Well, if you're going to have a Pokemon KO'd every turn, then you should be using Teammates so that you can then get whatever you need the following turn. Remember, it's all about the combo. Magikarp on the bench with damage, Gyarados, double colourless energy. And Teammates helps you grab the last couple of things you need. 1 copy of Lysander. It's Lysander. It allows you to take one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and drag it in the active. You can KO a Pokemon that's looking particularly threatening. You can KO a Pokemon for 2 prizes to win the game. It's just too good. You've got to be playing a copy of it. And 1 copy of Professor Kukui, like we said. Yeah, it allows you to draw a couple of cards, but it does an extra 20 damage. It helps you hit the numbers. That's why we're playing Professor Kukui. And here, we're playing 4 copies of Versus Seeker, so that we can reuse all of these supporters whenever we want. Now, you might be thinking, looking at this deck, hang on a second, what about Garbodor? Garbodor's going to be feasting on the many item cards you're playing, and yes, this is a deck that doesn't really care about playing items, because you're swapping 1 prize for 1. You think you can outspeed and out-consistent Garbodor, so you don't really mind. Plus, Garbodor's often paired with something like Espeon or Drampa, so you're often going to be able to steal a 2-prize turn at one point anyway. You should be able to win the prize trade against Garbodor. You're not terribly worried. The only energy you're playing are 4 double colourless energy, because that's what Gyarados' attack costs. We're playing 1 copy of Special Charge, which allows you to get 2 of those back into your deck, and we're playing 4 Puzzle of Time, and really here, you're playing 2 Puzzle of Time at once, so that you can grab any 2 cards from your discard and put them back into your hand. Maybe you're grabbing Magikarp, maybe you're grabbing Gyarados, maybe you're grabbing double colourless, maybe you're grabbing your Stadium, I don't know. But 4 double colourless plus a Special Charge plus 4 Puzzle of Time, you know what? I can live with that, ladies and gentlemen. That seems pretty gosh darn consistent to me. And the only stadium you're playing is Team Magma's Secret Base. Whenever either player benches a Pokemon, a basic of course, that basic takes 2 damage counters. Now this is quite nice for just doing damage to your opponent's Pokemon, but of course you want it here to damage your Magikarp, because every Magikarp benched with Team Magma's Secret Base in play means Gyarados is doing an extra 60 damage. And that just leaves us with the items. We're playing 4 Ultra Ball because it can grab any of your Pokemon. It's the best Pokemon search we've got. We are playing 3 Dive Ball because it can search for all of your water Pokemon, so not Tapu Lele, Shaymin, Machop or Machoke, but all the others, and most of the time that's what you want. This needs to be a fast, aggressive, consistent deck because you need the combo. 7 ball cards is right. And I say 7, I actually mean 8, because we're playing 1 level ball as well. It gets your Magikarp, it gets your Remoraid, it gets your Octillery, it gets your Machop. Because the other thing you really shouldn't sleep on in this deck, there are some matchups where you need a turn 2 Machoke or you've basically already lost the game. It's that harsh. 4 Puzzle of Time we've already spoken about. 1 Field Blower. Why? Because of things like Fighting Fury Belt. Adds 40 HP, stops you hitting numbers, you get rid of it. Although sometimes Garbodor can be really annoying because of your Octillery, so you can use Field Blower to get rid of the tool on Garbodor to turn your abilities back on. And don't forget, of course, that Puzzle of Time means you can use Field Blower several times. 4 Rescue Stretcher, and this is just a straight replacement in this deck for Buddy Buddy Rescue. You can either grab a Pokemon from your discard into your hand, that last Magikarp, your Gyarados for the turn, etc., or you can shuffle 3 into your deck. It's brilliant, you're playing 4. 1 special charge we've already spoken about. 1 town map we've already spoken about. 3 trainer's mail. Again, it just comes down to this being a fast, consistent deck that needs to set up. Trainer's mail helps. You would love a 4th trainer's mail in this deck. There just isn't room for it. Again, you can't just add cards in, you've got to cut one, so feel free to cut a card for a 4th trainer's mail, but I really don't see where the cut's coming from here. 4 Versus Seeker we've already spoken about. 3 Choice Band we've already spoken about. And 1 Floatstone. Floatstone gives any of your Pokemon free retreat. Why is this really good? Well, things like Octillery, things like Machoke. It's all quite nice. Although one thing I should mention, your opponent can Lysander your Machoke into the active, but Machoke is still protecting your bench. So your opponent can Lysander Machoke, but they can't then spread damage to the bench while Machoke's stuck in the active, so they're going to KO it. So Floatstone on Machoke isn't quite as important as you might think, because in theory, if they're going to Lysander Machoke, they're just going to KO it. So there we go. Now, the thing to remember is that Alex is, I feel very confident in saying, the best Gyarados player in the world right now. I think this makes it the best Gyarados list in the world, and I feel very confident saying that. But do remember that you're going to need practice with this deck to be as good as Alex and go undefeated in a regional championship. Thank you to Alex for posting this list, and I should give a very quick shout out to his team, Complexity Card Gaming, for also facilitating the sharing of this deck list. Now you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to like this video, comment if you feel like it, because this is a really good list. Let's have a discussion. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, @TheWassy. Make sure you're subscribed, and the most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.